Okay, this is now tarot lesson number 19, and it's kind of a continuation of the last one, because in the last one I talked about major trumps, but using the Roman number, the Roman numeral. So the magician is number 1, but the Hierophant is V for 5, right? So if we look, there's 1, 2, and 3. So we've got these 3 go together because they're all straight lines, whereas 4 is a 1 and a V, and 5 is V, 6 is V1, 7 V11, and 8 V111, right? 5 and 3, 5 and 2, 5 and 1. So somehow these 3 belong together, and these 5 belong together as well, because they've all got a V. They all revolve around in some way the number 5, the V. So at the end of number 18 it was, I had looked at the magician as number 1, the high priestess is 2, and the empress is number 3, and said, okay, these 3 cards go together in some way. So maybe you've got the idea, and then you cultivate it in the dark, and then you bring it into the light. 1, 2, 3. But then at the end, I picked a card, and before I get to the card, it occurs to me, let's say you can't get to sleep, right? You've insomnia, or you wake at 2 in the morning and you can't get back to sleep. What are you going to do? Or maybe you're worried about something, you can't stop thinking about it, and all that thinking about it just makes it worse or adds to the problem, and you're not getting a solution. So what do? And I think what you do is, if it's 2 in the morning and you can't sleep, in your own mind, have the magician, the high priestess, and the empress card, and think about them. Imagine what the combination might mean, or represent, or make you think about, or point you in the direction of, and just see what ideas and thoughts come to mind based on just thinking about these 3 cards and how they relate to each other. And you'll find that, on the one hand, you learn something, you discover something, and you understand the tarot better, but you also fall asleep, honestly, and you'll be relaxed. And it means that, let's say you get a major problem and you can't figure out what to do. Meditate on, ponder on, think about, play with, wonder about these, for instance, these 3 cards together, and what they show. And then if you go back to your problem, you discover that in some way you've figured out what to do next. So with that in mind, at the end of talking about these 3 cards, though I didn't mention the meditation thing, I picked a card and my question was, is this any good? And I got the 3 of coins upside down, and I thought, okay. I would have preferred the 3 of cups upright, 3 of coins upright, but I got that. So Talis had a good point about the card. She left it in a comment. But it occurred to me after this, maybe a card comes out reversed because we're meant to think about it. So if the 3 of coins had been upright, I would probably have thought, okay, this is a good idea, I'll develop it, or we'll see where it leads. And I would probably have thought nothing more of the 3 of coins. But the fact that it's upside down got me wondering, why is it upside down? What's it telling me? What's it mean? So I just went for groceries. It's a 15-minute walk down to the grocery store. And I like to walk, and because there's no distractions, and I can look at the scenery and enjoy the sunshine or the wind, whatever it happens to be. So I like to go for a walk. On my walk down, I was thinking about this card, because I get ideas when I'm walking. So I thought, what does the card show? And we've got a person here, 1. We get 2 people having a conversation here, and they join them together, and you get 3. 1, the magician. Is this the magician? And these 2 are the high priestess. And you put the whole picture together, and you got the empress. That was my first thought. That okay, what's going on in the picture? And we've got this person who's probably the expert, knows what he's doing, but he partly because he's on a bench and he's higher up than these 2. So symbolically, he knows more. He's closer to truth, maybe, or whatever you want to say. But he seems to be the expert, or he's got the qualifications or the skill. But these 2 are having a conversation about something. Maybe they're trying to figure out what they want, or what to do, or what the next step is going to be, or how they want this person to behave. And I thought, the card is upside down. He is waiting for these 2. So maybe when the 3 of coins is upside down, you're forced to wait for other people to make a decision, or for other people to give you instructions. And that made me think of these 3 cards, because I had begun with, you've got an idea here with number 1, it's developed in number 2, and it's brought to light in number 3. But because the 3 of coins is upside down, maybe the key card here is the high priestess, because the one person here has to wait for these 2. And if these 2 represent the number 2, then in this combination of cards, 1, 2, 3, it's the high priestess who is really the starting point, not the magician. Even though the magician's number 1, maybe there's something about the hidden factors at work because of the high priestess, or maybe what you do is you start in the dark, or in seclusion, or in isolation, and you see what ideas come to you, or what thought happens, or what Henry Miller wrote great books, I think. And he said at one point, all the books that have ever been written are in the atmosphere. And what writers do is bring them down to earth, or transcribe them, something along those lines. So maybe that applies to numbers 1, 2, and 3, that what's important is not so much what's in the light, because it looks like sunshine in the magician and the empress card. Maybe what's important is what's in the dark, or what's hidden. And so our first step maybe ought to be, let's figure out what's under the surface, or what's in the dark. And because if you're in the dark, you're using your senses to identify things. You're not using thought and your vision, right? And your conscious mind to look. And because the thing, maybe it's because when you're the magician, you can be biased, and you maybe don't know it. Or maybe you do know it, but yet you still give into your bias and see things in a particular way just because that's what you expect to see. And maybe our starting point ought to be the high priestess, where instead of using our conscious mind to think about things, we use our feeling, or we use our psychic sense, or our how would you describe it? Our I don't want to say intuition, because that can sound mental. We use our idea, the concept, the hidden meaning, or a possible meaning in something. I've been watching a couple of things about Marcel Duchamp, and his ready-mades. I hadn't thought of this until this moment, so I may get mixed up. But his idea was that art is about life, and it has to do with, art is not about what looks nice and what you make. Art is about choosing something because of what it means. And he gave an example of a ready-made, which was a snow shovel that he hung up in an art gallery and said, this is art. And it's because the snow shovel isn't just a snow shovel, because it was called something like the step before breaking your arm, or something along those lines. And it's as if you got a snow shovel and maybe you slip on the snow and you break your arm. So the concept or the idea of a future possible accident is contained in this snow shovel that he bought in a hardware store. And it's the idea that is important. So I hadn't meant to do this now, but if you remember art, right, I'll do it on here. T-A-R-O-T is an anagram of to art, right? T-O-A-R-T, T-A-R-O-T. So maybe there's something silly, something important in this, in art, and in Marcel Duchamp talking about it's the concept that's important, not the actual color and the texture and the visual representation of whatever it happens to be. So if in 1, 2, 3 it's 2 that's important, what are we going to do with 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8? And maybe, because I was thinking before I did this, that maybe the 5th card, and here we've got the Hierophant, maybe I was going to show you these 5 cards laid out, but okay, there's 4, 5, 6, 7, and I'm using the Justice card for number 8, as you know. And I was thinking, okay, these, in the same way that the Magician, the High Priestess, and the Empress go together, 1, 2, 3, in some way, the Emperor, the Hierophant, the Lovers, the Chariot, and the Justice card all go together as well. But it's more complicated because we've got 5 cards, not just 3. But in this, and I was thinking, okay, the key card here is the Hierophant, because all these numbers, the Roman numbers, have got a V in them. So they all relate back to the 5. But in the light of 1, 2, 3, and the 3 of coins upside down, maybe the Lovers, the middle card of the 5, because remember the 2 was in the middle of the 1, 2, 3. So maybe the 6 in the middle of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is the key card. So I'm going to stop at this point. I don't know how long I've been talking, but maybe what you do, I can imagine that next time I'm going to talk about either these 5 cards or the next 5 with 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 and see what we can do with them. But in the meantime, maybe have a think about 1, 2, 3 and also 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and see what thoughts come to mind or what beginning ideas you get by meditating on or wondering about what's going on with this little sequence of cards. What have they got in common? What are they? And does it mean that because the Lovers have got Adam and Eve here, does it mean that Eve on the left here relates in some way to the Hierophant and the Emperor, and Adam relates in some way to the Chariot and the Justice card? And what's the Angel? Is the Angel the Fool? Because we haven't considered the Fool. It's 0. And the Fool is Marcel Duchamp also mentioned that, or talked about how art is about a region that is beyond time and space. So maybe the Angel is beyond time and space. Maybe the Fool is beyond time and space as well. So sometimes people want to know how to learn the tarot. And I think what you do is you do stuff. And whatever it happens to be, wonder if what you're thinking about or reading about or the kinds of people that you're meeting or the kinds of situations you're coming across are actually helping you understand what the tarot is about. In the same way that I found myself watching Marcel Duchamp, and then I'm able to make use of or relate what I discovered about him and his thinking to what I'm actually looking at now in these lessons when I started these lessons, I had no idea what I was going to do. I was just going to see what happened and see where I was led, so to speak. And we've ended up here, and in the company of Marcel Duchamp. So that was sort of it for the moment. So let me just, I'm putting these back, separating them a bit so they're not all stuck together. And so today is Sunday, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll see you again on Wednesday. So have a good weekend, or a good what remains of Sunday if you're watching then. Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.